Hey guys, welcome back to Board Draw, and today we've got a nice little North London derby preview for
Come
your
on!
ears. Yeah, we've got it. It is going to be Tottenham at home to Arsenal coming up on Sunday. So we
Yeah,
thought
boy.
we'd give you a little lowdown. It's a big game, big
Yeah,
game
it's a big weekend. There's derbies all over the gaff,
all over the gaff.
but this is the big one.
This is the one that I'll be watching
Let's
definitely.
go.
Um, we'll start off with the home team Spurs. It's been a weird season so far. Um,
It
I
has. I feel
mean,
like we've said our fair share about Spurs on the pod, but I think it all just comes down to them just being incredibly inconsistent. And I
boring.
think, yeah, boring. I don't want to dig them out because it's obviously just me. It just reeks of me being an Arsenal fan. But it's just dry, man. I watch Spurs because they're easy to bet on. You just bet on Harry Kane shots on targets, Son shots on target, stuff like that. But honestly, they're so boring to watch. So dull.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. We've spoken about this at nauseum just on the podcast. Like, just they are just boring Spurs. But they are currently sat 2 points behind Newcastle, who are in third,
Yep.
which is kind of surprising. They are 11 points behind Arsenal. Arsenal do
Yep.
have a game in hand. And yeah, only 6 points behind City, who also have a game in hand, which I look back at it and I think that's kind of surprising because I think they've been much worse than they have been in terms of their
Mm,
performances. But their performances have been poor,
yeah.
consistently going behind. I know they didn't go behind at Palace, they end up winning 4-0, but that is something that can't become a trend, although it has sort of already.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, their form going into it isn't the best. 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw in their last 5. But they are off the back of a good result against Palace, so that's something to take into account. But like we said in the podcast, when it comes to the North London derby, form does sort of go out off the agenda.
It
But
does. I feel like this is probably the most confident I've felt in a while going to Spurs because we actually do struggle when we go to Spurs' stadium. I think the record is something like in the last 10, we've only won once at Spurs. Hella draws and stuff, but it's never an easy game. And but this is the most confident I feel going into that game. Obviously, being top of the league helps. Spurs being on kind of a topsy turvy run of form helps. But like you said, form goes out the window. I just think we've got too much for them in every department. We've got too much for them.
potentially, apart from that up front, that number 9, I think, yeah, if Spurs have any chance of winning this game, it comes down to a moment of magic from someone like Harry Kane,
Yeah,
who is actually having a really good goal scoring season. He's on 15 goals this season. The
yeah.
assists have dropped off though compared to where he's been at in previous seasons.
But I
He's
think
only got
that's
the
just
one
definitely
assist.
due to everybody else being dog shit rather than him
Yeah,
being shit.
I agree. I think we are looking at Son and thinking
His
sort
form's
of
dropped,
why.
mate. Like
Yeah, and
falling off a cliff.
the performances have been telling as well because he doesn't look the same player that we've seen in previous seasons. I mean,
Yeah,
and that's probably why Harry Kane's assists have dropped because Spurs aren't putting up the numbers that they were in the first season with Antonio Conte, especially that
yeah,
amazing run they had. But yeah, I think if Spurs have any chance of winning this, it comes through Harry Kane.
yeah,
But that chance is quite good because
yeah.
he
He's
he
balling
is
out at the moment.
he is on, and we're seeing a different bit of Harry Kane. He's not just poaching and like goals from from just outside the penalty spot. He's scoring all sorts of goals. He's hitting them from like 20 yards and they're going in. A lot of goals off the turn as well into the top bin. So yeah, I'd be a bit worried about him. But
Yeah,
I
he
think
is
Arsenal's
my
strength,
main worry.
yeah, Arsenal's strength though comes from their attacking press and causing Spurs trouble up the other end of the pitch. And I think if you're an Arsenal fan, you can be very confident going into this game because Spurs' ability to play out from the back is almost none.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
their
I liken
midfield
it
is
to
lightweight.
kind of like the Brentford game where they really struggled in the first half because Brentford just came out with like incredible intensity, and Spurs just shut the bed. And like you said, they can't play out from the back. Their midfield is lightweight, and so Brentford just completely overrun them with their press, with their intensity on the ball. Spurs' midfield couldn't cope. And I think if they struggled against Brentford and that kind of press and their Brentford midfield, then we're going to have a field day, I think, because our press is better than Brentford's. We come out the blocks so quickly these days. Like against Brighton, who are on better run of form than Spurs, we completely turned them over in the first half, completely shocked them with our kind of pressing ability. And then I'd say we've probably got, maybe barring Man City, the best midfield unit in terms of pressing, winning the ball high, and turning it into attacks as quickly as possible. And if Spurs can't play out from the back like they've shown in the past few games, and if their midfield can't retain possession, which they're really struggling to do at the moment, Thomas Partey, Odegaard, and then Saka and Martinelli tucking in, they're going to win the ball back so easily. And I think it's just going to be like a barrage of attacks if what's been happening recently continues. I think we're just going to just suffocate the life out of them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that's going to be the game plan. I think we're going to see a very aggressive and intense Arsenal, especially off the back of that sort of frustrating game against Newcastle, where they could have had a couple goals inside the first 10 minutes or so, and Newcastle sort of just suffocated the game. But yeah, so Arsenal offer the back of a draw against Newcastle, which is interesting. And Spurs off of a 4-0 victory, where all the goals came in the second half. It would be telling for Arsenal to win this game. I think it would set a good precedent for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it'd be lovely.
But as an Arsenal fan, there's always going to be, I'm speaking on your behalf here, there's always going to be a bit of nerves going into these sort of games.
Yeah.
You never
one
really
of the
know
biggest games on our calendar every year. So
100%. And
it's never easy. And like you said, with Harry Kane, who is arguably maybe behind Kevin De Bruyne, probably like the best player in the Premier League, for them to have him, it's just such like a fucking clutch card that they can just pull out at any point. And so, yeah, it's never a sure thing that we're going to win. But like I said earlier, it's the most confident I've been in a hot minute going to Spurs.
One thing I was going to lead on from there with is where Arsenal are at. We've seen the sort of mentality. We've seen it in the documentary, and we've sort of seen how they responded to going behind in games, especially this season. I think the Villa game was one where they sort of instantly responded to
we're getting quite good at that. We used to capitulate quite quickly. But yeah, like you said, the Villa game, the West Ham game, we went 1-0 down. Even in that Brighton game where we were 3-0 up and then they scored 2, old Arsenal would have shut the bed and drew that game 3-3. But we went and won 4-2. So definitely a shift in mentality.
Do you think that potentially, though, if you came out of this game with anything less than the win, that you could maybe start to see like a bit of unraveling in the season? Because I think everyone's waiting at the minute for Arsenal to hit a bump.
Yeah.
And it hasn't come along, and they haven't played City yet, which is obviously probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
Lost to United though.
Yeah, I think I would be more worried about that United game if we played badly, but we battered them for pretty much the entirety of the game. And I think it was just a bit of hot-headedness from Arteta, young manager. He made some pretty silly subs. We went pretty light in midfield. So when was it? We were like 2-1 down or 1-0 down, and then he ditched a midfielder for another attacker, and we just completely got overran in the midfield. That's him just being a bit hot-headed, and he definitely is a hot-headed manager. But I would be more worried in that game if we were shit, but we were actually really good that game. And I don't think I've seen us drop a game that I'd say is below like a 7 or 8 out of 10 this season. Look at this guy, man.
He wants to get involved. But yeah, I think in previous seasons, if Arsenal went on a good run, coming up into the North London derby, sort of the way that derby goes sort of defines for a good period of time anyway how the rest of the season will go.
Yeah.
Whereas I have less fear for Arsenal, even if they come out of this game and Spurs get a freak result or something.
Mm.
I have a lot of faith in this team to be able to, like you said, the shifting mentality. They will put it aside and move on to the next one. But that is sort of the nature of the beast when it comes to a game of this magnitude. Not just in terms of Arsenal keeping up the pace at the top of the league and setting a precedent, but just in terms of what it means for Spurs fans and Arsenal fans and that rivalry. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Harry Kane is going to be the main man to watch for me.
Yeah. I think on that point though, about you saying that there's like you've got more confidence in Arsenal being able to, even if like something goes bad in this game, you have like faith that they'll pick it up later down the line. I think another perk of that is just how quickly the games are coming at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And both us and Spurs and Man City as well, we've got like no easy games for a while now. So every game is pretty like clutch. So Spurs have got us and then Man City immediately after. So they could easily, I don't know, win against us and then lose against City, or lose against us and then beat City like they usually do. So they could get momentum there. We could beat Spurs and then lose to City. And so there's momentum that's going to be gained and lost pretty quickly in the next few weeks, because there's some hard games coming where all the big dons play each other.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's something you to definitely look out for. We're going to see probably, I wouldn't say a lot of movement because there are gaps at the top of the table.
Yeah.
But we might see some
some momentum.
Yeah, some people breathing down other people's necks that you probably wouldn't
100%.
expect. And I think for a team like Man United, I think they do have who they got Man City this weekend, haven't they?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they've got a big game,
and they're on good form.
Yeah, so there's going to be swings in momentum, I reckon.
But yeah, and then you've got teams like Liverpool. Liverpool are 5 points behind Spurs, but with a game in hand, they don't really have any big fixtures coming up.
So they could make like a little silent creep up the table.
So yeah, this is the sort of period in time where that does happen. But yeah, should we get into? We've given our predictions already, so if you want to hear our predictions, go listen to the last podcast. But we'll do a little combined 11. So I think
so basically we were going to do a combined 11 anyway, and then I was just scrolling through Twitter, minding my own business, and some clown got his way onto Sky. What's he called? Lee McQueen. Some absolute clown. I was going to call him a donkey from our Twitter account, but I didn't want to get suspended again.
Yeah.
So I didn't do that. But he made a combined 11 of Arsenal and Spurs players from this season. He had 4 Arsenal players and 7 Spurs players. 7 Spurs players.
What's bear in mind that Spurs are literally sat 11 points behind Arsenal who have a game in hand on them.
Am I dreaming? He's got Lloris in goal, who I think has probably made the most errors from a goalkeeper that have led to goals this season in the Prem.
Mm-hmm.
Romero, yes, he's been okay, but surely he doesn't get in ahead of Gabriel and Saliba, who are probably like the best defensive partnership in the league at the moment. And for some reason, he's playing 3 at the back as well, and shoehorned Saka and Kulusevski in, which I think is him saying, "Oh, I think Saka's better, but I'll get Kulusevski in anyway." Son, who's been off form for fucking the whole season. Perisic, who's been average. So yeah, that got me rattled. And so I'm going to come into this combined 11 with the fattest Arsenal bias you'll ever see.
I don't hold a bias, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
For me,
good that we got you.
For me, it's pretty much for maybe 9 out of this 11. It's no-brainers. I'm going Ramsdale in goal. We've seen Lloris absolutely having howlers. And although he's an important figure in that Spurs dressing room, I think they need to look up and potentially moving him on.
Big time. And I think they are. I've seen them linked with Meslier. I've seen them linked with Pickford. So they definitely know he's past it. So any Spurs fan that is getting him in just because he won the World Cup is just chatting shit. Because like I've said many times on the pod, he literally had no major input in them winning the World Cup.
I'm picking this team if, like, the way I'm looking at this, if I'm playing Man City tomorrow and I can pick between Arsenal and Spurs players, this is the team I'll play.
An elite team,
yeah. So I'm going Ramsdale in goal, no brainer. I think Ben White's been potentially one of the best right backs in the league, which is
100%.
surprising because he doesn't really fit the profile of a right back.
No,
But
but
he's
I
been
like him a lot.
unbelievable,
Yeah.
and he's so valuable and be able to like tuck into that 3 that pushes Zinchenko up on the left hand side.
I really like what managers are doing at the moment, where they've got one fullback that is pretty much a centre back.
Yeah.
You see it at City, where Walker can tuck in, Cancelo goes up. Even Newcastle are doing it, where Dan Burn is pretty much a centre back and Trippier will go forward. That's what we're doing with Ben White, and then Zinchenko or Tierney go forward. So I like that a lot. That's something Spurs don't have, because none of their players are smart enough to do that and pull that off in game. So it's another pro for Arsenal, and yet Ben White gets in every day of the week.
But yeah, my formation is a 4-3-3, by the way. So yeah, basically White, White, Saliba, Gabriel, and Zinchenko. They make up the back 4. Potentially maybe Perisic and Zinchenko. I like Perisic a lot, but I think Zinchenko is much better in that left back role.
Yeah,
Perisic is better potentially
going forward
in and around the area.
Third. Yeah,
but he's that's basically a left wing role. So yeah, back 5 Arsenal: Ramsdale, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko.
I back it every day.
I don't think anyone can argue that Bissouma or Højbjerg could play the holding role better than Partey. I think him,
best DM in the league,
best DMs in the league. Yeah. And then you're looking at Odegaard. He's a shoe-in.
Yep.
In that 8 role.
He just won Player of the Month as well. So big up my boy.
Yeah, unbelievable player. I don't really think Spurs are a player in his essence anyway that could challenge him. The only other one apart from the one we'll get onto in a minute, who's pretty obvious, that gave me a bit of thought was Xhaka and Bentancur. I really like Bentancur.
Agreed. Yeah, same. And this clown that I bullied on Twitter, he had Bentancur instead of Xhaka. And that was the only one that I said would be kind of questions. I think form-wise, Xhaka gets in every day of the week. He hasn't let Arsenal down at all this season. Being such a good partnership with Thomas Partey.
Brilliant around the box as well this season. He's really
I think overall, if you're talking about going forward and building the team, you'd probably put Bentancur there instead of Granit Xhaka.
I think if Bentancur started the season and he was an Arsenal player, he would be fulfilling that sort of Xhaka role brilliantly. And I think he's an excellent player.
Yeah.
I think he's withheld, sort of held back by that Spurs setup. He can't play progressive football. He can't play forward as much as he would like to. So, and he doesn't have someone like Thomas Partey sitting back to clear up. So, I'm going to go Odegaard, Partey, and Xhaka. So at the minute, on this starting 11, we've got 8 Arsenal players. And it gets worse.
It does.
I'm sorry, Son. I'm sorry, Son, mate, but Son's crying.
Yeah, Son is
Martinelli
crying.
is having the best season of his life. And
Yeah,
he looks like it's only upwards from here because he's an absolutely unbelievable player. Him ahead of Son
is going to be one of the top 10 players in the world. I'm calling it now.
Mate, and then on the other
side, electric every single time.
Kulusevski or Saka, it's a no-brainer. Kulusevski last season when he came in was good, very phenomenal, brilliant at ball carrying. Really tighten up that space between the lines as well, and it was brilliant.
And he's so creative as well, which I don't think he gets enough credit for. And Spurs miss a lot when he's not in the team because all their kind of going forward and creative ideas is just Harry Kane dropping deep and trying to do something. Mm-hmm. But when Kulusevski's on the pitch, they have creativity on that wing. And like we said, Son has just fallen off a cliff in terms of form. But to have someone that can create chances from the wide spaces is what Spurs need, because beyond him and Harry Kane, there is no one that's creating chances in that team.
Yeah, and Saka's in the form of his life. So Saka's in that team for me. So out of this starting 11, we've got 10 Arsenal players, and the one the Spurs player making it in is Harry Kane.
Yeah.
I don't even think Roz, as an Arsenal fan, would deny that.
No, Eddie's in good form. Gabriel Jesus, before he was injured, was in good form. But you take Harry Kane every day of the week.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the comparison to make is to Jesus. If Jesus was fit and ready to go, I think you still can't overlook Harry Kane.
Yeah, 100%. He gets in there unless he's, I don't know, dead. But
yeah, literally.
Harry Kane.
He could have 2 broken ankles. He'd probably still walk his way into this team. But
and like we said right at the start of the pod, he will be the reason Spurs get anything out of this game. If they do get anything, it'll be Harry Kane.
Or, maybe Son decides to turn up this week.
I reckon he gets pocketed, mate. Ben White will have him in his pocket, 100%.
But yeah, I mean, so that's our little rundown of the North London derby. Let us know what you think in the description. In the comments. But yeah, let us know your combined 11s as well. Give us your score predictions, and we'll come back to that and see if any of you have managed to out-knowledge us on this particular game. But yeah, it's been Borjo. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Trying to hit 100 subs. And yeah, follow all our socials as well. Everything's down in the description below. And yeah, wish you all the best for this big weekend of football. Derby season.
Come on,
is
Derby's
here,
coming out of our arse. Let's go. Derby weekend.
Draw, and it's live.